Alright, so now I'm going to do a comparison between the kit lens on its widest versus the Tamron on its widest, and let's see how much more field of view I get. Alright, so this is the Tamron lens on 28mm, which is the same as the kit lens on the widest 28mm. Now let's zoom it out to 17mm, and that's the difference between the 28 widest on the kit lens and the 17 widest on the Tamron. On 17mm at normal autofocus drive speed, on wide focus, it locked on pretty well. So far not so much issues at 17mm, but on 28mm with the same setting, it had a little bit of trouble trying to lock focus to the lens cap, which is the subject. I think it had trouble reading the whole sensor, whether to focus on something on the background or the foreground. But as I pulled the subject a little bit further away, it managed to lock onto the subject. But when I put the subject too close to the lens, it will start hunting and it just can't focus on it. I don't often use wide focus. Most of the time I'm on zone focus, spot focus, or center focus. This is 28mm on center focus. It's a lot easier to lock onto the subject because it's only focusing in the center. So it doesn't have to read the whole sensor to figure out what to focus on. It just focuses in that little box in the middle of the camera. At 17mm, same, no problem. It has very snappy focus, locks on really quickly. And I think normal autofocus speed is just nice. This is on high autofocus drive speed, center focus. A bit too fast for me, too snappy. I don't see myself using high autofocus drive speed unless it's for a specific shot. At 28mm, also no problem. It locks on pretty well. Center focus, it's easy to find something to focus on. This is slow autofocus drive speed at center focus at 28mm. To me, this is too slow. I don't see myself using slow autofocus drive speed that often. I'm not sure when I would use slow autofocus drive speed, but it's a bit too slow for me. This is at 28mm, slow autofocus drive speed. Started hunting, just couldn't lock onto the subject. When I moved slightly further away from the lens, it locked on, but very slowly. This is at 17mm, slow autofocus drive speed at center focus. Yeah, again, it's just too slow for me. I think normal is still the best speed. Alright, so let's talk about the pro and cons of this Tamron 17-28. The pros is the size. The size is really small. It's honestly not that big. This fits in a lot of my bag. It's almost the size of the kit lens, so there's not much difference between this and the kit lens in terms of size. I've been holding wide angle with the A7 III. It's not heavy, you don't get tired. I use it on a gimbal as well, the Zhiyun gimbal. It's okay as well, it doesn't feel heavy. Another pro is the field of view. I think the field of view is pretty good. 17mm is very wide. You get a lot of things in your shot in a very tight space. 28 is okay. I rarely use the 28 on this camera, on this lens. I'm usually using 17 to 20 around there. I don't often use 28mm on this wide angle. I mean, I bought the wide angle, of course, to use the wide angle, right? And the image quality, I think the image quality is pretty good. It's not the sharpest or the best, especially in the corners and the side, because of distortion, but the center of the image, I think it's pretty good. The cons of this lens, there isn't much. Maybe the plasticky build might put some people off, but other than that, I think it's just the field of view. I mean, 17 to 28 is enough, but I would like it to go to 35 maybe. Another pro on this lens is that it has a rubber gasket sealing here for weatherproof. Would I recommend you buying this lens as your first lens? No, I think the kit lens is probably a better first starter lens. Or the 28 to 75 version of this. That would be a better starter lens rather than this one. If you get the 28 to 75 first, and then you can get this as your second lens, that would be better. And if you want even longer reach, you can get the 70 to 180. That would be the three sort of complete set of lens to have. Apart from your other prime lenses, your 85, your 50s, and your 35s. I think these three lenses can sort of cover up all your ranges in terms of the kind of work that you want to do. Something beyond the 180 range would be the Tamron 150 to 500. I think if you are doing sports or wildlife, then that's a suitable lens for you, but I don't do that, so I don't need that kind of gigantic lenses. But if you want something lighter, I think the 70 to 300 Tamron lens is pretty good. Obviously, it doesn't go up all the way to 500, but 300 is still a pretty good zoom. But the lens that I think is the best Tamron lens that came out so far is probably the 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8. And that's the lens I've been eyeing on. I've actually wanted to buy that lens, but I have not saved up enough money to get that lens. It's pretty pricey, but obviously it comes with pretty good reasons. The lens goes from 35 to 150. That's a really good focal length. I have not seen any other lens that gives you this kind of range, and it's at f2. What kind of zoom lens, or how often do you hear zoom lens coming in at f2, right? So if you were to buy this full frame together with the 28 to 75, the weight will be 960 grams. If you get the 35 to 150mm, it weighs in at 1,165 grams. It's not too far to having two lenses in a bag or just having one lens. Obviously, if you want the wide angle, then you have no choice. You have to get this lens because 35 is not going to give you wide enough view. So I think even buying this with the 35 to 150 is a good choice, but it does come in a very high cost. And that concludes this video. If you have any questions about the 17 to 28mm, do let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next review.